Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Why You Should Read. We know it's been a hot minute since we posted one of these, and if you're watching this one, that means that I was able to successfully get it edited, uploaded, recorded, all that jazz, and we were able to put it up. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties. If you listen to the podcast, you know we go through technical difficulties a lot. It's just sort of part of our brand at this point. If this one's out, then I was successfully able to get it up. And so, yeah, if you enjoy the video, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go check out our podcast. All the links to all of our sites and merch and podcasts and everything, social media, it'll be in the description boxes down below. So make sure you guys go check out all those links. And we appreciate the patience for you guys for this video and just rocking with us for however long you've been rocking with us. And without further ado, I'm going to hop right into this video today. So, today, my Why You Should Read, if you haven't seen from the title, is going to be Blue Lock. Now, if you listen to our podcast, you most likely have heard me talk about this manga more than once, and we've even given it our manga of the month recommendation back earlier this year, or I think it was last year. I can't really remember. Between COVID 2020, just it was all a blur, like everything blended together. So I think it might have been last year though. But this video is to expand on why I hyped this manga up so much, pretty much. In the grand scheme of things, my goal by the end of this video is not only to introduce viewers to this wonderful gem of a manga, but I also want to just shed light on this manga that I consider to be a top tier sports manga, something that can potentially even rival Haikyuu. Now I know what people are thinking, like, yo, this guy's crazy, rival Haikyuu. Haikyuu's like pinnacle sports manga when it comes to that genre, but I honestly think that this manga, if it ever to get an anime adaptation, can rival Haikyuu. And hopefully by the end of this video, you agree with me, or I've piqued your interest or gotten you hyped, or I don't have a lot of friends that read this, so I'm hoping to get other people to read it so I can talk about it. And I would love to know your thoughts on it at the end of this video in the comments below. So definitely drop a comment on what you thought of the video and what you think of Blue Lock. So what is Blue Lock? Blue Lock is a shonen sports manga written by Muneyuki Kaneshiro and illustrated by Yusuke Nomura. It's serialized within Weekly Shonen Magazine. If you're not familiar with Kaneshiro, who's the writer, he actually has quite a few mangas under his belt. His biggest one, I think, being Joggin, or Yagin, however you pronounce it, which is actually a manga I have on my to-read list. And honestly, after reading Blue Lock, it's something that I'm pushing up to the front. The premise of Yagin already seemed unique to me, but I want to read it even more after reading Blue Lock, just of how well Blue Lock is done. As for the illustrator, his main works include Dolly Kill, which I haven't really gotten into. I've seen it around. I think it has an anime adaptation. I might be wrong, but I'm not too familiar with a lot of his other work. So, where does the story begins with Blue Lock? It begins with Japan's elimination from the 2018 FIFA World Cup, which promotes the Japanese Football Union to start a program scouting high school players who will begin training in preparation for the 2022 World Cup. So it focuses on Isagi Yoshi, a forward who receives an invitation to this program after his team loses the chances to go to nationals because he's passed a less skilled teammate. The coach is Igo Jinpachi, who intends to destroy Japanese loser football by introducing a radical new training regimen, which is isolating 300 young forwards in a prison-like institution called Blue Lock and put them through rigorous training aimed at creating the world's greatest egotist striker. So now, what exactly does this mean? Basically, this coach, Jinpachi, wants to create the world's best striker in Japan because he is tired of seeing Japan lose in the World Cup. Why is this unique from other sports mangas? Simple. because instead of focusing on the whole team aspect that most sports mangas and anime focus on, Blue Lock focuses on the players utilizing their ego and selfishness to succeed. In most mangas, they preach why teamwork is needed, whereas in Blue Lock and in soccer in general, they explain how famous players like Messi, Ronaldo, Beckham, like all of these legendary players are where they are now because of their egos. Of course, they have their team backing them, but at the end of the day, these players utilize their teams as weapons. Now, this may sound harsh to people listening and watching this video, but I personally think that this outlook in a sports manga is sort of like a breath of fresh air from the typical, like, let's work as a team. I think, especially when it comes to soccer, strikers are the ones typically scoring the goal. They're responsible for scoring a goal, which in turns wins the game for your team. So I think that just having this cool, unique aspect from the from different like sports mangas that focuses on teamwork, I think it's really cool and unique, and it drew me in instantly. Like I was like, oh yo, like so it's not gonna be the typical teamwork, like let's work as a team, you guys, or you know the players start off selfish and they gotta learn how to work as a team. It's like, no, it's a complete opposite. It's like these players, especially in Japan where they preach such teamwork, these players have to learn how to be selfish and have an ego to succeed. Now of course teamwork is still relevant in this manga, but having not only the MC Isagi but all the other players focus on having an ego, and want to be the best, I feel like this, it makes it realistic. Like I said, you know, when it comes to sports, people have to have that drive to want to be the best, that ego to believe that they are the best. And as for the manga, or as the manga progresses, you see that these students begin to develop that drive, which makes them all cool and unique and somewhat realistic and grounded. So the premise around Blue Lock, I think, is very solid, and it does something different from most sports mangas. And when it gets into the characters, is another pillar I think that makes this sports manga top tier. So you have the plot, where this coach is basically trying to create the best striker in the world, and they're tossing away the ideals that Japan's soccer union has held on to for so long, because he realizes that it's not getting him anywhere. So he's taking a different approach. So the plot already is kind of like pretty solid and unique compared to a lot of the other soccer mangas and animes out there, as well as just sports in general. Now the other pillar that I think makes this a very top tier sports manga is the characters. Now, for those of you that don't know me personally, don't listen to the podcast, I typically can't stand MCs, especially of shonen manga and anime. However, the MC in this manga is probably one of my favorite MCs, rivaling some of my favorites like Soma from Food Wars or Deku from My Hero. Yeah, I know you people got problems with Deku, but Deku's top tier MC. I don't care what anybody says. On top of having a pretty solid MC, the supporting characters are also pretty cool and unique. Upon entering the program called Blue Lock, the players are ranked from 1 to 300 and broken up into the teams of 11, where they must compete against each other to advance within this program. So the first player the readers are introduced to is, of course, on Team Z, which is the lowest ranking team. It wouldn't be a shonen manga if these players weren't at the bottom of the barrel and having to work their way up and prove themselves. So Team Z consists of the MC Isagi and 10 other players. Now, who is Isagi? Isagi is introduced in the first chapter with playing a match that in the last moments of the game, a game which he was mostly dominant, and he passed the ball to one of his teammates instead of taking the game-winning shot, and his teammate ended up missing the shot, costing them the match that would have led them to nationals. So after the match, Isagi cried, and after the game, when his team gathers around, he realizes that like no one's really upset that they lost. And this bothers him because that realization that being selfish was the way to go in that situation, it conflicts with his Japanese ideals of football. Football is a game played by 11 people, and one person cannot win the game alone. So now he's having these conflicting views within himself because he's like, if I would have took that shot, we would have won. But like my teammate called for the ball, who was open, I passed it to him and he missed. But they're not upset that we lost. Like, and he wants to win. So once he gets home, he tells his parents about the loss, and his mother hands him a letter saying that he was invited to a player improvement project. Now, this behavior from Isagi instantly made me like him as an MC because it showed right off the bat this internal conflict that Isagi was going to have throughout this series. Him wanting to still play as a team, but also having that hunger to want to be the best at something. I think it's something that a lot of athletes go through, and I think it was a brilliant take for Kaneshiro to do with this MC. Another reason why Isagi was one of my favorite MCs is because not only does he has this character growth that you know you're gonna see throughout the manga, but he's also an MC that doesn't rely on plot armor to succeed and grow throughout this manga. Like, the manga shows early on, Isagi enters Blue Lock program that he's actually quite smart and he's a decent player. He uses his brains and converts every loss into a learning opportunity to further improve his skills, which also is great compared to the typical shonen MCs that, you know, thrive off of plot armor. They're just the best because they're the MC, you know. All throughout this manga, it shows that Isagi is not the best player here. Like, he wins matches, he scores goals, but he's by far not the best player here. And so then it becomes, how do we keep him the main character without making him overpowered or still showing that he has a lot of room to grow. And so throughout the manga, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but throughout the manga, you see how Isagi continues to evolve and learn and adapt to the matches and the games he's doing. So so that, I mean, that's pretty much the main reason why I think Isagi is a great MC, and he's probably one of my favorite MCs, is because he's such a well-built character, and it's not just your typical shonen MC. Now, Blue Lock also introduces great supporting characters as well. That's actually really cool, and I found myself almost liking every character, and I say almost because there's quite a few characters that kind of just irked me the wrong way. But we're not gonna get into them. I don't want to. I'm not gonna get into every single character that they introduced, but a few of my top favorite characters is characters like Meguru Basura. He's like the very energetic, cheerful, enthusiastic player during matches. Rarely loses his cool. He describes soccer as something fun to play with others. He has like a weird little quirk where he sleeps at unexpected moments. And he's just a really cool and fun character. And you see you see as he progresses, like the one thing I love about this manga as well is that they showcase characters very well and they give them all some form of development. But Meguru is probably one of my favorite characters in the series as well. You have other characters like Rensuke Kunigami, who's he's the hot-blooded forward whose main goal is to become a football superhero. He's basically a Bakugo played soccer. I'm just putting it from character design to personality. He's pretty much Bakugo, just without the excessive screaming. And then you have another character like Hyoma Chiguru, who is he's a forward prodigy who's chained down by an injury, and he's basically trying to figure out how to let go of his fears while at Blue Lock so he can continue playing soccer wholeheartedly. So they introduce these cool, diverse characters who all have their own reason for wanting to become the best striker in the world. But not only do they introduce these characters that are cool, but they also give them very solid plot development and character development and growth throughout the series. Almost all the important characters that are introduced receive some form of character development throughout the series, whether it be emotional or physical. The background stories that they introduce are incredible and sometimes even heartbreaking. Like there's a few that kind of tugged at my heartstrings because I was like, geez, man, Chikuru, when you learn about his background and his injury and like why he doesn't want to play soccer, like it kind of pulls at your heartstrings because you're like, dang, dude, like I feel that. Um, these Kinoshiro, he does a great job connecting you to these characters and making you care for them and wanting to see more of them. And he does a great job shining the spotlight on characters in such a cool way, and not taken away from the MC, of course. Now, of course, you still have your MC, so the manga and the story has to center around him. But all these supporting characters, he finds such a cool way to tie them um into the MC. Of course, it's a typical like, oh, like we're rivals, basically. Like everyone wants to try to, like, the MC pushes everyone to their best. Reminds me a lot of Deku and how Deku is in My Hero, where he pushes everyone. The fight that Deku did with Shoto when he was in the sports festival, and he got Shoto to use his fire side of his quirk. It's very similar to how Isagi pushes all the side characters to want to be better at this sport and aspire to how they refer to it in the manga is devouring people. Like like, I'm going to devour you on the field. Like, I'm going to surpass you. I'm going to be better than you. So that's another strong pillar that I think makes this a top tier manga. The last pillar I want to talk about is the arcs and art style of the manga. If you couldn't tell from all the manga panels I've been showing, the art style of this manga is pretty amazing. I wouldn't call it top tier, but it does an amazing job capturing the matches and flowing really well, where the reader can follow along without getting confused. I never really found myself. I mean, there might have been one or two times that I had to like go back and reread a match just to kind of figure out what happened, but for the most part, the art style is very solid. It's easy to follow along. You can follow along during the matches, and then the cool like illustrations they do to display people's abilities and powers, and when they're going and above their standard and abilities, it's very cool. The arcs are well paced, and although they can follow the generic shonen formula for the arcs, it still does a very awesome job with keeping you on your toes with plot twists throughout each match or arc. So far, the manga is broken up into 6 arcs, with the current one seeming like it could be the last, but it's not finalized yet. Each arc does a great job showing how Isagi is working towards his goal of becoming the best striker in the world, but also how each other player is striving towards that goal as well. Like I said, each player gets their spotlight, and they get their development. My prediction is that the manga probably has a solid maybe 1 or 2 more arcs after this 6th one, which I think is perfect for a sports manga. Worst thing about a sports manga in particular is it being dragged out more than it should be. I think Haiku did a great job because it ended where it needed to, and it didn't continue to try to push it past its limits. I think once Jinpachi accomplishes his goal of creating the best striker in the world, maybe there should be a short epilogue and then it should end. So I'm hoping that they don't push it past its limits, but we'll see. We never know. We never know how. I mean, if you guys listen to the podcast, you'll know that me and Xavier has been burned in the past with loving a manga in the beginning and then it just ending terribly or continuing on terribly. So in my conclusion, if you're someone into sports anime and manga, or even have been looking into getting into one, I think Blue Lock is a perfect start. The plot and premise of the show is something unique, but still has the shonen aspect to it that makes it a little over the top, but it's cool and fun. The art style is great, and the character development and pacing of each arc is spot on. If this ever gets an anime adaptation, I for sure think it's a sports anime that will rival Haiku. As far as the hype goes and plot and story, characters, I think people will love it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it got you interested into wanting to read this manga or check it out. Let me know in the comments what you think. So thanks everyone for watching. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. What's your thoughts on this manga, as well as on this series of why you should read. Drop recommendations of what I should check out next. And yeah, until next time, guys.